Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Hog Hoops Report. Hayden Herrera joined, as always, alongside Kevin McPherson. Kevin, a game to forget if you're an Arkansas Razorback fan. Florida takes down the Hogs 111 to 77 down in Gainesville. This was a game that saw the Razorbacks lead briefly, then it got out of hand. The simple question I'll start with you is what went wrong down in Gainesville?
Well, it was a horrible matchup to begin with. Honestly, in my preview show a day before over on hogville.net, I suggested that this could get ugly. This could be as bad, maybe worse than the Auburn road loss early in league play. And I said the big problem begins on the front line, where that's where Arkansas's weakness is, and specifically playing with physicality, force, resistance, and that Florida had that times, 10 coming into this game, the best front line in the country. And I said, and then you're playing on the road in Gainesville, where Arkansas really has struggled over the years. So I said it was almost potentially a cocktail for disaster. What I should have suggested and said it the day before is call in sick, guys. Just call in sick. Let's skip this one, get it, do the 2-0 forfeit, and let's move on. Arkansas grabbed a 16-11 lead. It looked okay early. And it was really just Florida settling in. And the Gators obviously then timed up what Arkansas was trying to do. They figured Arkansas out pretty quickly. And you saw the difference. I mean, Florida's elite defensive team, top 5 in the country, 13th in offense coming into that game and then to hang 111 points, it showed that they were great at both ends, holding Arkansas to 77. But they're so connected. That's the other thing I noticed. Arkansas, as good as the offense can be, and it's a top 5 offense, but defensively, Arkansas is not very connected. They lack certain qualities, again, physicality, the ability to play with force, resistance, and then I don't think they're all that connected. I think the defense is porous inside and out too often. So when you see a Final Four caliber team, you recognize it, and when you see a team that you hope and wished and thought you had the personnel to get there, and it's just not so, you recognize that too. Now, that's not to say it's impossible for Arkansas to go to a Final Four and that it's a given that Florida will. But you tell me. I mean, I'm looking at both of those teams, and I see one that could get back the defending national champions. And I think Arkansas took a step back defensively this year relative to last year. Last year's team was actually better than this team, not offensively, but collectively. They were more connected. And that seemed to grow in a good way by the end of the season when you want it to. This team has never put down a serious defensive identity. Not, you can pick out one or two games you can make the case, but now with 1 week to go, 2 games in the regular season, then you're getting into postseason. It's March. We're in March. It's March Madness. The good news is you're undefeated in March. You went 5-2 in February, and that last one, that second loss, was a thing of. I mean, that's one of the worst losses in Arkansas history. And to be honest, aside from how thoroughly dominated Arkansas was inside and out at both ends, the fact that the frustration set in, you saw it in the faces, you saw it in the body language, and you saw it in some of the extra stuff that Arkansas was doing out there that got extra looks and some extra flagrant stuff in there. The whole thing just imploded.
Yeah, when you mention that, lack of defensive identity, does that start with the big men and just their production?
It's a big part of it, but it doesn't just start with them. I mean, as talented as Acuff and Malik Thomas are, those are offensively oriented dudes. You'll see at times them make the right plays defensively or be a little better than you've seen, and then it doesn't last very long. And it's not just picking on them. I mean, DJ Wagner, who's thought to be a strong defender, has not been strong defensively, in my opinion. Carter Knox was arguably Arkansas's best point of attack defender, but he's been out for a while and hasn't had his best year. Billy Richmond's Arkansas's most versatile defender, but he's one dude. He's one guy. And when you're playing against a system like Florida has right now that's got personnel, that's got depth, quality veteran guys, and they're playing together, connected, like I said, even if Billy Richmond can have an off night, which he did. He ended up his field goal shooting percentage was okay, fifth straight game with 20+ points, but even he got caught up in some bad angle shot taking and forcing stuff. While Arkansas did not test Florida's elite defense with good side to side ball movement, they instead attacked early in clock with nowhere to go. It looked like a team that regressed offensively, in addition to what you just asked about defense. So everything starts to fall apart when you play that quality of a team on their home court and you don't have a way to counter and you don't have a way to even play to your strengths anymore because you've got let it get in your head and now you're playing right into their hands. And so you ask if it starts in the middle, if it starts on the front line defensively, these problems, but I think the backcourt also is accountable or hasn't been accountable. And then it seeped into everything else. Again, offense, that Arkansas couldn't make free throws again, one of those games where they're shooting in the 50s. It was just all around bad. There wasn't a place you could point to and go, ooh, that's working. Arkansas was thoroughly dismantled. I put it in my game article that you could see on Pig Trail Nation's website. I said Arkansas was, ripped apart and devoured. And what does a Gator do? They shred you apart and they devour you. That's what I saw.
Yeah, they sure did. You kind of mentioned it at the beginning, but when you saw Arkansas kind of hang around there in the opening minutes and they had the lead, did you sense that maybe this one could be a little bit closer, or is it like you said, it was just a matter of kind of Florida getting settled in?
Well, you don't know. At the time you're thinking, okay, Arkansas didn't get off to a poor start right out of the gates. But at the same time, 13, 14 minutes still to play. I mean, you were 6 or 7 minutes into it. And that's how basketball is. You just never know. And then once you started to see Florida play to its strengths and focus on what they do well, they really hit another gear. It's really interesting because as good as Florida is defensively, and they're really good offensively as well, not rated as highly as Arkansas, Florida actually played fast, physical and fast. That was also in my game article. It's an interesting comparison because a lot of times physical teams don't necessarily play the fastest. They try to grind you down and sometimes, really punish you, but they punish you in more than one way. They were physical at both ends, but they had no problem getting out. I mean, they lost the transition, not by a whole lot, but so they got a lot in secondary transition, which may not have factored into the fast break stat keeping. But they put pressure in more than one way on this Arkansas team. They did a really good job of not just beating Arkansas, but dismantling Arkansas. There's a difference between the better team winning a game and then a better team just completely taking your mind and your know-how and your sensibilities away from you. I mean, it was like being taken down in Gitmo, like some kind of terrorist suspect, and they take away your vision, your hearing, all of your senses, and then they waterboard you. I hate to be so crude about it, but that's kind of what it looked like. Arkansas got waterboarded, and they turned the music up real loud too, where you couldn't sleep. But Arkansas should have called in sick. Period. End of story. That sums up everything. Should have been a call-in day, sick day, snow day.
I can always
however you want to
on
pronounce
you
it.
for an analogy, Kevin, no matter the situation. Well, I want to ask you this. What was it like as someone who covered him last year? What was it like seeing Boogie Flan? I'm sure you've seen him on, in previous games. What was it like seeing him on the court actually taking on the Razorbacks?
I mean, it was, this late in the season, it's not a fresh breakup. That if they'd have played early in league play, it probably, but because of the way this game was, that was the least of Arkansas's worries. Flan didn't get off to a great start, by the way. It was Xavier Lee, his backcourt mate, who actually had the better game. And it's so interesting because Arkansas, I have no doubt in my mind that Arkansas's guards are better than Florida's guards when you just look at the offensive talent and capabilities. Their guards, because of their system, are better defensively in large part, but they've also got experience beyond a freshman season. Acuff and Malik Thomas don't have it. But what Xavier Lee getting downhill and getting to the rim with these layups, that wasn't just him being better than Arkansas's guards. If you watch Florida's bigs, and I cautioned this in my pregame show, they seal off their frontline defenders so that they can't get into the play and help in rotation and come over for a weak side to alter a shot or block it. Arkansas had one block. This is a team that had 10 blocks, 11 blocks, 3 games in a row. Then they won the next 2 games. They didn't get to 10, but they still, 6-1, 5-1 against their opponents. That script got flipped. 5 blocks for Florida. That's what they average on the season. Only 1 for Arkansas because their bigs do a great job of sealing off your front line players so that the flow of their guards getting downhill can get all the way to the basket. And again, Arkansas's guards are not good. Arkansas's not good on the perimeter, walling off drives or funneling players away from the intended, lane of getting deep into the paint into the rim. Arkansas's not good at taking that away on the initial on-ball defense and point of attack defense. The best bets they've got are to block shots, and Florida's bigs do a superior job of sealing off those bigs so they can't even get near the ball handler going to the rim. And so, again, this was a clinic in every sense of the word that Florida put on against Arkansas. It was such a dominating performance again. Arkansas not only lived up to some of its shortcomings defensively and physicality, but went beyond that. They just completely shut down.
Yeah, Florida now 14-2 in the conference, 23-6 overall. They've won 9 straight, and they look just like a team you would not want to see in your quadrant of the bracket come NCAA tournament time. I want to ask you about Arkansas's leading scorer, 22 points from Mr. Billy Richmond III, played 39 minutes, shooting 9 for 17. Just this run he's been on. We talked about it last week, but even in losses, he's bringing it, and it's the time to bring it as we are now officially into March.
That helps Arkansas. And, Arkansas's got a chance to moving ahead to secure one of those double buys in the SEC tournament quarterfinals, lock up a preferred seed in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, everybody would like to be a 1, 2, or 3. 4 is looking like a remote, distant. Arkansas would have to go on a serious run now through the SEC tournament to maybe get to a 4 seed. Probably going to be lucky coming out of the weekend to still be projected as a 5, maybe still as a 5. 6 is starting to look maybe more, but you got to have a Billy Richmond III leading the way. He does it, again, he's versatile defensively. His effort, energy, we question that about so many players on this team. Not him, not at either end. He's not perfect. So he's a guy that you like to see moving into March, moving into your postseason, who's look at him offensively now. He is a major threat, a 20-plus point scorer in the last 5 games. So he didn't have a flukish game. He's consistently doing that now. And so that's a positive. That's a guy you already knew was bringing that energy, and you knew was your most consistent effort guy at both ends throughout an arc of a season. Now he's doing even more. Maybe there's something there. And the postseason can be funny. A game like this could help Arkansas refocus. They're not going to all of a sudden become a physical team. They're not all of a sudden become a really good defensive team. But what they might do, they've got manageable games left to get to the SEC tournament. Then we see how that goes. But the NCAA tournament field is unknown. You might get favorable matchups. You may get a favorable location. There may be an upset in your bracket with someone that has a better matchup against you, and now they're no longer in the field. You don't resolve to, we're doomed. We're not as good as we thought we were. No, you pick the pieces up, and a Billy Richmond's a guy that never let the pieces fall. He's increasing what he gives you. So that's something you hope others rally around.
Yeah, you would hope so. Delivering some critical points and just all around energy and great stuff from him. I want to ask you about. I don't know if I've ever asked you about the AP poll on this show before, but last week Arkansas wasn't really punished by the Alabama game. Do you expect them to still be in the top 25 this week, given another 1-in-1 week?
Maybe, but I think
it all factors into what the teams directly above them and below them have done.
That's right. That's right. There were some other teams that are on some skids right now, and Arkansas did beat A&M at home. But if Arkansas is still ranked, I'll be surprised if it's not something like, I'd say 23rd is probably the highest, the ceiling I would be looking at.
Right.
And no shock if it's 25th, and no shock, honestly, if they drop them all the way out of the poll. would that be an overreaction to one really really bad game? Probably. Arkansas's got a good body of work. A quality neutral site win over Texas Tech. Louisville, who's sliding lately, not looking as good, but it's still a net top 20 team. Arkansas's got 4 wins against the net top 20, including Tennessee, which lost at home at Bama. I mean, Louisville lost at Clemson. So if you look at some of Arkansas's better wins, Texas Tech did spring an upset without JT Toppin at Iowa State on Saturday. So if you're looking at the quality of Arkansas's wins in a vacuum coming out of losses this weekend, plus what happened to Arkansas, that might be enough for some voters to say, you know what, is this a top 25 team? I think it is, and I'll be surprised. I'll be mildly surprised if they're out of the top 25, but not shocked. Somewhere between 23 and 25 is my guess.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, that'll come out Monday afternoon, and we'll see what happens as we get into this first week of March. All right, I think fans probably want to get that Florida game out of their minds. So let's just rewind to February 25th. Arkansas hosted Texas A&M. It was a 99-84 win. Another home win for the Hogs. What did you see out of that game? What did you like out of that performance from Arkansas?
Well, Arkansas's offense is elite, and A&M threw some different things defensively at Arkansas than the Razorbacks have seen this year. A lot of full court press, a lot of scrambled defense. They take a lot of risk and chances. They foul a lot. Arkansas was really, really good at the free throw line, as I recall. But the Razorbacks, 99 points, that's the wheelhouse of an elite offensive team. They took care of that into the floor. Now, because of Arkansas's problems defensively, another opponent shooting better than 50% in a game, and A&M made the game interesting at times. It was kind of a roller coaster, even though Arkansas never relinquished the lead in the second half. The Razorbacks got in trouble a few times because their defense just doesn't hold up. And so if they're not scoring on every single possession, their defense might just, falter enough to let a team stay in a game. And that's how that game kind of was. Arkansas had another run late. I think A&M had gotten within 5 points. Darius Acuff had 1 of 12 at that point. I think it was 67-62 with about 9 minutes to go. 5-point difference. Acuff hits his first shot since early in the first half. And it's the first of 6 consecutive field goals he would make. So he went from being stuck on 5 points at halftime and midway through the 11 minutes into the second half, now all of a sudden he gets on one of those Acuff heaters, and he scored 17 of Arkansas's final 32 points, more than half. Ends up with 22 points at his average. It looked like just because he's a 50% field goal shooter on the season coming into that game, over 50. So that was a very out of character for him, but he gets it going. And now Arkansas's pulling away and winning, going away. So it was Arkansas's offense being better than everything A&M has. And it's a good season, year one for Bucky McMillan at Texas A&M. They do some quirky stuff again defensively. They disguise a lot of what they do, the full court pressing, all of that. Some of that tripped Arkansas up at times, but Arkansas's offense against that level, Texas Tech is never going to be accused of having the personnel that Arkansas has. And in Bud Walton Arena, that mattered. And I think Arkansas did the job offensively. Once again, if you look at Arkansas's wins, a lot of it's just their offense is better than the other teams. Not that their defense has been all that great, just better offense.
Yeah, Bucky Ball has tripped up some teams this season, but not the Razorbacks. That was Arkansas's 21st win of the season. They are now 21-8 overall, 11-5 in conference play. All right, we'll take a quick break. Then when we come back, we'll look ahead to this week, the final week of the regular season. You're watching the Hog Hoops Report. Stay with us. We're back on the Hog Hoops Report. Hayden Herrera alongside Kevin McPherson. Kevin, can't believe I'm saying this. Final week of the regular season is upon us. Arkansas with senior night on Wednesday, March 4th, welcoming in the Texas Longhorns at 6 o'clock. Texas is a team, towards the bottom, I guess you could say right in the middle of the SEC standings, 9-7 overall. I covered Jordan Pope back in my Oregon days when he was a star for the Oregon State Beavers. Now he's still wearing orange. It's just
Yeah.
burnt orange. What have you seen out of Texas so far this season? Looks like they're just coming off a win, and they're right in that kind of 9-7. A couple of teams 9-7 in the conference.
Yeah, technically, this is what I was going to talk about before we talk about Texas. If Arkansas wins both games this week, Texas and then Missouri in the season finale on the road, Arkansas will wrap up. They'll clinch a double bye in the SEC tournament, advance to the quarterfinals with that double bye pass on the Friday quarterfinals. But Texas and Missouri are both still in play, I believe, mathematically for the same thing. And so Texas at 9-7 is only 2 games behind Arkansas, but there are 2 games to go. And Texas can control part of that destiny and actually get a tiebreaker against the Hogs. They only play once this year if they win at Bud Walton Arena. So Arkansas is not only playing for that double quarterfinals bye, but their next 2 opponents are. So Florida was just the biggest of their problems coming down the stretch, but they still got 2 teams with a lot on the line. They're both NCAA tournament projected teams. Texas, I've watched Texas all year long. This is a team that matchup-wise can give Arkansas a lot of problems. They've got, you mentioned Pope, who's not the biggest guy. He's a very talented offensive player, but Texas has good positional size, and positionally, most of their players can play through and with physicality. On the front line, at the 4 spot, at the 3 spot, Tremont Mark, the former Razorback who's still playing college basketball, having a good season. He can be a physical problem, loves to get you in the mid-range, and then, he's a guy that can take on contact and still finish and get to the free throw line. So I've watched Texas play Duke and early in the year throughout the season, and this is a team that is a bit versatile. They've had a top 10 ranked offense through most of the season. They're not as good defensively, but can be a matchup problem on that end. They can play in a grind, kind of slower pace game, but up tempo and higher pace games, Texas can do that as well. So this is a really intriguing matchup for Arkansas in more ways than one. Another first-year head coach in Sean Miller, coming over for what was it, Xavier? Where did he? I think he was at Xavier.
Yes, yeah. He's been in a few spots, but I believe most recently with the Musketeers. Yeah.
So this is a successful season for the Longhorns, all things considered in a first campaign, and so this is Arkansas is so susceptible to physicality, teams that can play with force, and defending at all levels, and so even at home. We've seen what a Kentucky that plays decent defense. Now, I don't think Texas is quite as good as Kentucky is defensively. We saw Texas at home give Florida fits in the midweek game prior to Florida demolishing Arkansas yesterday. Texas was in that game until like the last 5 or 6 minutes, and then Florida ended up winning by 13. But that was a back and forth game, and Texas held some leads there. And so that's a team matchup-wise, again, I think can be a problem for Arkansas just because of the style that they can play, and they have some versatility in ways they can play. I think that's a tough one. And then I don't know if you're going to ask me about Missouri. I'll give you a chance to do that. But Texas and Arkansas also have the historical rivalry going back to the old Southwest Conference days. A lot of that was around football and both teams being at the top of the pyramid in college football in the 60s, but some in the 70s, even the 80s. That was a big rivalry. But in basketball, once Arkansas, the triplets and the modern era of college basketball in the late 70s, Arkansas and Texas basketball also had some big stage games, big stage former future NBA star players. And so there's been a rich basketball history as well. Texas is hated. The Longhorns, that's a hated brand in the state of Arkansas, more so than most SEC programs, especially when you're talking about fans that go back to the old Southwest Conference days. So there's a lot packed into that season, and it's the regular season finale. You mentioned it, senior night. It's the last time Arkansas is going to play at Bud Walton Arena this season. So there's a lot in that matchup beyond just the current stakes.
No, absolutely. It seems like just yesterday that Arkansas played Missouri, and it's because it was basically February 21st. It was that home game, 94-86, where Arkansas picked up the win. Missouri, a lot of people projecting them as in the NCAA tournament. They are 20-9. They've won 2 straight. They're 10-6 in the conference, and again, fighting for that. Fighting to stay in that top 4. So this regular season finale, I mean, it could the stakes could be very, very high.
Yeah, and that Missouri, if Missouri beats Arkansas, the two teams would have split the home and away this season. But Missouri is one of the two teams that beat Florida. So one of the tiebreakers. Let's say you're in a 2-way tie with Missouri for the 4th seed opportunity to get that double bye. Missouri, after the head-to-head results, then you look at from top to bottom descending order. What are your records against the number 1 team in the league all the way down? And so Missouri would automatically win that tiebreaker by virtue of defeating Florida and Arkansas losing to the Gators. And Missouri, is a physical team as well, huge front line, big wing players. They've got size. They're at home. They're playing really well right now. They've got recent wins over Tennessee, Vanderbilt, they've got an impressive resume when you look at some of the league teams that Missouri's been able to defeat. So I mentioned Florida. So, this is going to be a tough ask for Arkansas to go 2-0. And that's the only way Arkansas can clinch that double bye, no worse than the 4 seed. If they split games, the Razorbacks, then they need some other teams to either lose, something like that, because they're not necessarily, depending upon who they would tie with for that 4th spot, they're not necessarily going to win the other tiebreakers or any tiebreakers head-to-head or comparing what you did against the top of the league on down. So Arkansas, if they go 1-1, they need help.
All right, that one's set for 11 a.m. in Columbia. Man, I cannot believe it's one of the best times of the year. I just can't believe it's already here. So we're postseason ready here on the Hog Hoops Report. Kevin, thank you for joining us. As always, I'm Hayden Herrera. This has been another edition of the Hog Hoops Report. More Pig Trail coming up when we return.